the Dynasty Madden League grind in 365.
Welcome into the DML Network, and we got a special episode of The Grind. We're going to take the top 5 issues that we want to see in the next CFM in Madden 19. We polled a bunch of different leagues. We narrowed this list down. Some really good things people want to see. But we got the top 5, and I got 3 guys with me that love to debate this kind of stuff. We'll start with the OG. It's Taz. What's going on, man?
What's good, expert? What's happening, fellas?
Man, it's time to get it. We got a special guy on the show. It's none other than C-Rob, owner of those Panthers in the DML. What's up, C-Rob?
What's good, fellas?
Man, so good to have you on the show. And then we got the self-appointed king in the building. It's none other than Flair himself. What's up, King Flair?
Woo! I'm ready.
All right, guys. So we all know that each year in Madden, we have things that we don't like. We got things we like. We always see features taken away in the game that we wish we would have kept. And that's really what this show is about, to just see what 5 features we like added back into Madden that we've seen before and ways to make this game better. But let's give an honorable mention because, Taz, if you remember, there used to be like a recap show you used to have in your league. It kind of went over, some top games, some things that were important for that week, and they kind of broke some things down. And that made number 6. That was the thing people wanted to see back. Why was that such a big thing in Madden in the CFM community?
It added to the presentation and kept you more involved in the whole franchise. I mean, it was cool doing it with just playing the computer. But just imagine, having it back. You got 31 other guys. You got this cool-looking presentation, the recap show. Not to mention the full immersion that we do in the Dynasty. I mean, that's some stuff that we could just really utilize also and just, take us to a different level.
Yeah, and I think that's where you hit the nail on the head right there, Taz. It's not just mainly the show that was on the PlayStation, but it's how we use some of this media stuff, especially when you got leagues like the Dynasty where we're so big on graphics, we're so big on shows, where we could use that kind of footage to just take us to the next level. And then it got 32 users involved with the league. You always wanted to be on that show. Was your game a game that was important? Were they talking about your squad? So it was just so important. But that was number 6. But let's talk about the top 5. And King Flair, I'm going to start with you at number 5. All right, listen up, guys. The number 5 issue that people want to see fixed is they want to see scouting based on schemes, and they want us to add defensive and offensive coordinators back into the game. As you know, right now, you got a head coach, you got maybe a trainer is important. If you ask some guys, trainer is the most important thing with the injuries we got going in this game. But King Flair, why is it so important that we have scouting based on schemes for guys that you're about to play?
Well, one of the main reasons that's very important to us is that it adds another element of planning, preparation, and also making your team unique to you. I think what people loved about EA back in the day, they seemed like they cared about uniqueness and not so much of a generalization of things, as even all the way back to NCAA. And if we have something like where we have your DC and your OC coordinators, it changes everything because you draft according to your OC and your DC. On top of that, you scout according to your OC and your DC, and then you have another angle where people. Let's just be real. I mean, Madden can change. You can be a dominant player 1 minute, and then you can be not so dominant. But to keep people entertained, you could be scouting and fighting to get the best OC. It's another avenue to keep interest peaked into someone like the Dynasty DML, where we do a full year of just immersion of games. And when we play 8, 9, 10 seasons, that's something that we can add to it. And OC is very different because, that's one thing. You can get an OC that likes to run spread option or spread ball, but you have a pocket quarterback that's I formation or regular line up under the center quarterback, and it doesn't work. And that would actually it makes perfect sense. Or you got a DC that's 4-6 or loves the blitz or whatever that aggressiveness is, but you have all coverage defensive players. It won't work. Like it adds another intrigue to the game. I think most of the users in CFM like to get their full buck out of it, and we use it to the fullest. So I think that's something that we would love that.
No doubt, man. Just a ton of great points that King Flair just brought up, and I want to touch on a couple of them, and I want these other guys to be able to jump in here. But King Flair said something that I really love to hear, and it's so important to me when we talk about the CFM community that you have a scheme that you're drafting towards. So, and one guy that, we always give him a hard time because he'll ship a running back off on Monday that he picked up on Sunday because he really don't care because he's trying to get the guy that fits into his scheme. And C-Rob, I want you to talk about what King Flair was saying, where if you have a specific style of playing football and you got a guy on your team that just doesn't fit that style, regardless what his attributes are, regardless what his development is, how important is that you got the right guys to fit your scheme, especially if we were to add like an offensive coordinator into that?
You definitely have to have the type of players on this Madden that fits how you play, because if you don't have people that fit the way you play, you're not going to be able to get done what you want done. Case in point, you got boys like your boy Farquaad, who has to have a superstar team in order to work. So they don't fit his scheme. And then you got guys like Matty Ice, Peter Pan, who's a guy that can run deep posts. Now, if we get offensive coordinators in there and you got to sit up there and match guys to that offensive coordinator, you won't be able to sit up there and run them cookie cutter plays that everybody run. Like, everybody won't be running halfback wheel all the time, bench outs, deep outs, play action. You'll have to have a scheme that fits to that offensive coordinator, unless you get an offensive coordinator that runs play action deep outs or the post. Matty Ice can look for one of them OCs. But anyway, but yeah, definitely OCs, having OC and DC coordinators and everything in here would definitely make people add different aspects to how you build your team and how you their structure.
Yeah, I think C-Rob he's hitting that nail on the head, where it just adds that extra layer where it's going to take more than just you showing up and it's time to play your game, and you can put whatever 22 guys on the field and you can go be successful no matter what playbook you run, because there is no scheme. There is no scouting your opponent to how they run the play, because it won't make any difference, especially in Madden 18. It doesn't matter what playbook you run. If that's the style you are, that's just who you are. But if we could get an offensive coordinator, and then Taz, I want you to speak more on the scouting before you even get into the game. Right now, scouting is just we basically are just Simmons scouting at this point just to get the points. I don't know. I haven't talked to a lot of guys about whether they doing scouting on a regular basis, but your boy Expert, if I got it gold already, I'm just simming through it. Let me just get my XP. But how important would that be if you had to go into scouting and you got an offensive coordinator on the other side of the ball that is running spread, and you need to figure out how get your team ready to stop that spread offense? How much more important would that be for the CFM community?
I think that would be huge. If I remember correctly, one of the older Maddens had a more detailed weekly scouting report going into your game, saying not just giving percentages of, hey, your opponent runs, inside zone 64% of the time, or just runs 64% of the time. It was more of a breakdown, that your opponent likes to run this play, and this play. That would be huge. That along with my scouting is just watching everybody's Twitch. You wind up seeing, hey, this guy likes to run to the left almost the whole game. So, let me be prepared to run to the left. But I think the added dimensions is just like Flair was saying, having the OC, the DC, more detailed scouting. But then when you're looking at these prospects, getting players like C-Rob said, getting players to fit those schemes also. Have the playbooks tied into those coordinators to where maybe if you don't have the correct players in the positions that fit that scheme, maybe their ratings take a hit. Coming into this Madden, it was real big that ratings were going to be more important. So taking that to the next level, well, if you have players that don't fit your scheme, don't match up to your coordinator, don't match up to your playbook, well, then their ratings should take a dip. Right now, a lot of players just go for speed. This player's fast, I'll deal with everything else later, but he's fast, so, I'm going to get it. So I'd like to see that extra depth.
Yeah, I got a bonus to that, expert. I got a bonus to that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the OC and the DCs, you also, kind of like we have with our own team, we have the option of, promoting them to head coach or keeping them. If they're getting a lot of attributes, you can go and make an offer for somebody else's OC. For example, you got a good you got a lot of good running backs, but your head coach not good at it. But somebody like the Redskins or whatever like that, they have a good running OC. You can go make him an offer, and we can count. That's just another avenue of spending this money that sometimes that we collect that's useless, that we can't always spend over outside the budget. But when you deal with coaches, you can spend as much as you want. So you can be like, look, I want to make John Gruden, whatever. I mean, not John Gruden's OC or Andy Reid's OC and bring them over to my team or whatever. So it can be
Yeah, no doubt. Just another layer to add on to the CFM experience. Mm-hmm. But let's move on to number 4. And guys, this one right here, I know there have been so many talks about contracts and how we pay players. And then you got a guy that you give him a big contract, and that contract actually ends up hurting you later on, or maybe that player isn't playing as well. And you really can't go back in there and renegotiate his contract. And you either got to bite the bullet and cut him, take the penalty, or you just got to kind of hide him in your depth chart. And he's just making way too much money. I know one league I'm in, I took over a team where a guy paid old Des Bryant way too much money. So now I'm just stuck with him, or take the $16 million cap hit. And so number 4 that people voted on was the ability to renegotiate your contract along the tenure of that player, and then also being able to front and backload each contract that you have. So Taz, why is it so important that we could go back in there and renegotiate with a player just like they do in the real NFL?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if you give a player, like we see it all the time, a player is in a contract year, so he gives, maximum effort. He balls out. He gets that big contract. He comes back the next year, and, he's given 50% effort. And it's like, what happened? What happened to the level of play that you did last year, when you were trying to get this new contract? Well, the same thing in the game. I mean, stuff changes. This player gets older, and for some reason, he's just not, getting the production that he got the year before or a couple years down the road. So you should be able to go in and renegotiate. Or if you're trying to get a free agent, and you got a high player, why not be able to renegotiate his contract to bring in, that free agent that you're really going after? So, I mean, just like the real NFL. If it's going to be sim, let's go sim.
Right. I agree completely with that. C-Rob, we talk about renegotiating, but why is it so important for us to be able to front load a contract, or even to make that contract more important on the back end for us versus just you pay him one time and you got to pay him for those 5 years? Why would that be so important for a CFM Dynasty?
Because at any given season, you would have to make some adjustments. you might get in a predicament where you're paying a guy too much, or the game messes up and gives a guy 7 years worth of a salary for 1 year. So we definitely have to have the Shaq Thompson. That I've still heard about that. That's another story. But definitely, you want to be able to go renegotiate different kind of contracts like that, where you might come into a team and somebody, the user before, was paying people too much. Like you said, you want to be able to at least sit up there and bring that down so that you can get other pieces that you need for your team, so the team doesn't suffer as whole. So being able to renegotiate and, go in their offer, decrease the offer or adjust the salary that they have, it'll help us out so that people can manage those things better.
Yeah, and it allows us to be a full-time GM of your football team year-round. You got to always be watching your money. And we see a lot of guys, and I don't want to bring, anybody from the Dynasty out, but we see a lot of guys that when we talk about GM skills, maybe aren't up to the level of their stick skills. But if you were able to be fully immersed in every single contract of your players, how much more of a GM could you be? How many more talented guys could you bring in? Where right now, a lot of times you may look at a guy in free agency, or you may look to make a trade, but because of the way your contract situation is, you can't go after that guy with the full 100% that you want to go, because you're worried about, I got way too much money invested in these 5 players. And just so King Flair, I want you to talk on that. How important would it be for you as a GM? Now, all right, so King Flair, I want to come to you now about this renegotiating. And I know sometimes people talk about your GM skills in the Dynasty. And I know we've talked several times about sometimes you make a move this year that maybe you're not making that move to improve with your team right now, but it may help you another season, 2 seasons down the road. So talk a little bit about how much renegotiating contracts, front loading, back loading, how much that can help you be a better GM in the long run versus what we do now, where it's just pay a guy and be done with.
So, for example, I'll make this easier for EAs because everything that we talk about, that it all kind of ties in together. So, for example, when I took the Giants, it didn't dawn on me till like halfway through. Well, no, the end of the first season going into the second season, when I was trying to build up my XP for my coach. Use my coach's XP, and I realized that I had a 1-rated head coach, somebody that I didn't even want. Like, I didn't want Bob McAdoo. He sucked, and he had no attributes. But if I already had him attached to an OC that I wanted, or a situation like that, it would have made more sense. But also, there were players on the team that I had no use for, but their contracts was there. And I was just like, man, I can use them. I can switch this corner to safety. I can do this or whatever, but I really don't need them. But they're rated high, and their contract is big, and I got to hold on to them 2 years too long. But in actuality, what Madden does do well, to some chagrin, is that it decreases the player throughout the league, throughout the game while you're playing it. The attributes might say the same, but he don't play the same in the game. So what I think should end up happening is, to make it more realistic for EA to actually pull this off, that when we offer these contracts or we renegotiate, we should be able to offer like an injury and attach an injury clause, because some of the players, when the older they get, they just stay injured. So injury clause, if they don't play a certain percentage of the games, that they're able to renegotiate, or the contract will be void and you can get out of it, or a regression clause that you can put in there, and then it'll be easier for us to renegotiate with the players and even the coaches. Like, we can even put that in there for the coaches, not just the players. Renegotiate, like, look, if you don't win a certain amount of games, we want to get rid of you, or a certain amount of aspects, stuff like that. And if you do get it, not only does the coach get boosted XP, it also boosts the team's value. So,
right.
For money, and people come out. People love coaches. Some people follow teams just off of coaches. So we can top all of that in the OC, DC, and renegotiating contracts, but maybe we should start with adding it to injury, because that's a big thing on Madden. So if you say I re-sign, Jason Pierre, but if he only plays a minimum of 8 games in 2 years, then his contract is null and void. That's something that I don't have control over as far as injury, but my contract can have control over him playing.
Yeah, great point. We got some guys in the dynasty that would love that. That always have a running back that's constantly getting hurt, but his contract is secured. Came out the game, and that's what his contract was. But he hasn't played a full 16 game schedule yet, to where if you could put that as part of his contract when you re-sign and renegotiate him, how big that would be. Some great points there. But let's move on to number 3. All right, guys. This was actually, when I voted, this was my number 1 thing that I wanted to see in the next dynasty, the next CFM, when Madden 19 comes out. And it's full style practice mode. It is line your guys up. Let me work on my defense. Let me work on my offense. It's just like in the NFL. When you're getting ready to play a team, you have a scout team come out that runs their style offense, and you got to play your defense to that. So, C-Rob, I'm going to come to you first here. Why would the full style practice mode be so important for the CFM community?
Man, it'll be important because those that actually take time to truly scout their opponents like I do, it would allow them to really prepare for the person that they're facing. Like Taz said earlier, most guys just look at somebody's Twitch. Well, I like to look at the full roster. I like to look at with guys who's their third leader receiver, who's their check down person. And so I even look at the numbers of their players. So being able to do that and then go into practice and have a simulated style, a real simulation style type practice where you put yourself in certain situations, 3rd and short, 3rd and long. I know this guy likes to dump it down to the tight end. I know he likes to run this bench out route play. I can prepare myself for them, and hopefully, it would give your team a better response to when they see that stuff. So you can really key in on certain things that'll help you come game time. So yeah, it's a big plus if you can do that.
Yeah, and I think you right there, that last comment, you hit the nail on the head right there. It's about when you get into that practice mode and you get your players accustomed to seeing a certain thing in practice. It allows you as a user to know, okay, when I see this in the real game, we've prepared for this. We know what defense to call. We know what tendencies are of this team, what they're going to come out in, what formation they're going to come out in. And it's going to make guys stop being lazy when it comes to playing Madden. It's going to make you actually invest into your squad to know how you play defense, know how you play offense. And so, King Flair, is that something that EA could put in the game? Now, I know we used to have a full-style practice mode in previous Maddens. Is that something EA can put back into Madden 19?
Yeah, so, again, I'm going to be a stickler to this, but I just want to make it easier for EA to be able to make this happen instead of saying it can't. I'm trying to tie everything in together. So, again, if you have a certain type of OC that has, with the OC, he gets a certain amount of practice hours that other people don't get, or he knows how to maximize his time better. Say you take running out routes with a quarterback, I don't know, it takes him 10, 15 minutes in a game or 2 hours in a game compared to another one that was more, a lesser caliber OC or GC. So if we get a certain amount of hours compared to the OCs and the DCs, who they are, we can use that, and then we can apply those hours to the players. So, like, for instance, I got a rookie quarterback now. Rookie quarterbacks who are highly rated or come in the first round, they get a lot of extra time because they especially when they're the franchise quarterback or whatever, that gets done to them. If you're starting, you're spending a lot of extra hours. And it depends on who's your OC or your head coach or whatever, is how that transpires. So I think it would be great that I don't think see what I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be a cookie cutter, because that's kind of how it is right now with training and everything. I don't want it to be cookie cutter. I want it to be all the way infused to who's your head coach, who's your OC, who's your DC. That amounts how many hours you get. That amounts how you be able to make things work. Like, tie it all together.
Yeah, great point there, where we can just mesh all of these things we're talking about together. But Taz, I know you've been in the CFM community for a little bit of time, so you probably remember when we used to have a full practice squad, and how much more that allowed you to be ready when you played a game against somebody, because you knew exactly what you were about to see. There wasn't going to be any surprises, and I think it's, especially in the Dynasty, we're kind of at that point now because Twitch is so popular. You can really go back and watch every game that your opponent plays if you had that kind of time. But how important was it to have that full style practice mode back in other CFMs?
It was real good. With this being a game, it uses statistics and numbers and stuff like that. So, I don't see where it should be that hard to use the statistics of the play calling and everything that your opponent does to have, the practice offense or practice defense run those same plays based off of the statistics, based off the numbers. So, just like Flair said, having it being easy enough to infuse into the game, having the old full practice situations was great. But what it did then, it utilized a pool of XP that you got based off of your performance in that practice. So, that would be cool too, to bring that back and incorporate that in there too. The 3 focus players was nice, but only being able to focus on 3 players isn't enough. It is, especially for us in the Dynasty, because we keep, our XP down at 100. So, to broadly develop your team, having the statistics, going against a practice squad, being able to do game time situations, and having a small pool of XP to go along with it based off of your performance, I think that would be just great.
No doubt. And Taz just brought something up that I want to go back to King Flair on. We always talk about game time situations. And if you know that you struggle scoring in the red zone, once you get inside the 20, your red zone efficiency isn't where it needs to be. Or on defense, you're struggling keeping guys out of the end zone in the red zone. Or you struggle on short yardage situations. How much would that benefit you as a user if you could set your practice up to work on those things that you know you struggle on? How important is that?
I think it would be great to actually work on. I think Taz had took the words out of my mouth that I was going to add as a bonus part. But honest to God, like if I know I'm throwing a pick sixes or something like that in the red zone, or I'm doing something that doesn't help me, but I need to go against it. For instance, just say my division. I'm going against a certain player that has consistently done or played a certain way. I think it would behoove Madden to add it to the fact where not only that I got players on my team that are backup players, that are practice squad players, let them get XP running the scout offense or the scout defense. And it just Madden already simulates what plays or formations they like to use the most. So just let them let the CPU just run their plays, and I go against that. And it might not be exactly because people audible and change things, but it's still familiar. And then not only do my practice squad and my backup players get XP, but also if I do well against it, I get XP too.
Yeah, great points, guys. Great. Let's move on to number 2. And this was surprising to me that this popped up as number 2. Because I've heard some guys talk about it, but it's the ability to take your CFM squad and use it other places besides just in your league. So you can take your squad and do some online head-to-head. You can take it against other users in different CFMs. Taz, why is that such a big thing for the CFM community? Because it got voted number 2 to put in the next Madden to be able to use your CFM maybe in an online head-to-head.
So, like, that was my number one. That was one of my number one things. Because for me, you know, you can get some lab time in the current edition of Madden. You can go into the practice mode, but the practice mode is so deceiving. Like, you may get into practice mode and start running plays and stuff like that, and, you know, stuff is going well, but you're not going against another user.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can, you know, you can get lab time playing head-to-head games, but that's not the team that you built.
Right.
You know,
right.
So they're going to play totally different. You don't have the same players in the positions that you do in your CFM. But if you can grab your CFM team, save it to your system, play in an online head-to-head game, now you're truly labbing with what you built, because you know exactly how each player is going to perform, because that's who you drafted. That's who you put there. And, you know, now you really can take your gameplay to another level.
No doubts. All right, C-Rob, would you like to see your Panthers be able to go into an online game and play against another Madden user that's in simulation-style football and use your squad to just make you better when it's time to play a league game?
Man, I would love that. That was my number one. And Taz said it best, was like, you know, you can go into your practice mode, outside of the CFM practice mode. You don't have the team that you really want to use. I go into my practice mode and do the free practice just to run plays with my guys. You know what it would be like to unleash Jim Brown Jr.? They ain't ready for that type of problem. They ain't ready for that. But yeah, that's basically the MUT version of CFM, where you piece together your team. We're in these dynasties. We draft guys. We build guys up. You know, we're sitting up there. We're taking these players that we're making our own. And the same thing that MUT does when they purchase guys. You know, we're building these guys up from non-existence. You know, created draft players and everything. So, man, being able to take that out and play against other users, and, you know, putting your best against somebody else's best, the guys that you built up. Because, man, I'm in love with my team. I love the players that I would love to sit up there and match them up with guys in other leagues that I play in. And so everybody always has a league that they love or a team that they love. And, you know, the Dynasty, for me, this is it. This team that I put together, man, I would love it. I take this probably anywhere and run with it. And at least Jim Brown Jr. and Black Caffrey on the world. So, yeah.
Listen, I was waiting for someone to speak up and say the words MUT. Guys, that's basically what we do in CFM. We are MUT users that just don't buy cards. We are drafting players, but we are building our team. Now, King Flair mentioned that we play 8, 9, 10 seasons for a 365 cycle, because we do grind the whole entire year in the Dynasty. From the time the game drops till we get the next game, we are grinding every single day, every single week. And we're basically building our MUT squad, because when you get to the last season before the next Madden comes out, you might have one guy, you might have two guys on your team from the original team, but it's basically a brand new team that you have built from the ground up to fit your style. And how big would that be? Now, and this is the part where King Flair, you know, I know you're big about making the EA guys listen to this kind of stuff, but how big would that be for EA and the franchise of Madden, that you could have all of these leagues that are in the CFM community be able to bring your best team into a mode? And look, now it's the Dynasty versus OMFL. Now it's Dynasty versus whatever league. And it's who gets bragging rights now in the CFM community versus right now it's basically just he said on who's got the best league. But let's put it on the field in a MUT style kind of version where King Flair, you bring your Giants. Guy from another league brings his Cowboys. Let's put it on the field and let's see who's got the best squad that they built. How big would that be for EA and for the Madden franchise?
I mean, I think it would be huge. I think everything is in place to make it happen. You know, this year Madden is where you can pick up at any season or any play or any, like right now you can go and pick up the Falcons and they have the full roster of them playing versus the full roster of how the Eagles are playing right now. So I feel like they already have the technology to do it. But, you know, I try to be conscious that it might be a little more, they can't do it fully. So what I would say is that, you know, that they will allow, even within, all the way down to the CFM level, maybe where the CFM level is like pick a buddy or something like that, or pick up a team or whatever, that only that team you'll probably be able to scrimmage against, because I guess to do multiples and it'll probably take too much for them to do all of that right now. But just say I say, all right, I'm a scrimmage with Taz every year. Like I can do practice, I can do this with Taz, and we lock in as that. Now we're like that for the rest of the season. I can scrimmage him as much as I want with my team, but I won't be able to scrimmage every team. And then vice versa, the same for the leagues. Like the Dynasty versus, I don't know, NBL or whoever the other good franchises or CFMs is out there, where you can't do multiple, but the Dynasty has a partnership with another sim league and be like, okay, we can lock in, and then they'll allow us to submit one team at a time to play. So, if, you know, baby steps before we start running, but at least we can get that one team to play in this Ultimate Super Bowl, or we get that one team that we can practice against whenever we want, and just move forward like that.
Yeah, definitely would be a great feature. And the CFM community spoke. It got voted number 2, where I thought there were some other issues that would have got pushed ahead. But let's get to the number 1 thing people voted on, and it's got to be the most frustrating part of the CFM community, and not even the CFM community, but across Madden altogether. When you have a game disconnect in the middle of a game, deep in the third quarter, early in the fourth, you driving, you got momentum going, and all of a sudden the connection goes out. And now you got, in our league, you know, there are rules where you may have to restart that whole entire game over, and then it doesn't go in your favor starting from the beginning. So the number 1 issue that these guys voted on was that the ability for commissioners to restart a game at a specific spot that we know it disconnected. So let's say myself and Taz are playing. It's the fourth quarter. There's 6 minutes and some change left. Taz has the ball at the 30. He's down 2 points, and he's driving down the field. The game disconnects. In the Dynasty, we got to replay the entire game over. We can't just play 4 minutes or 6 minutes to find the winner. And all of a sudden, Taz comes back out, and now his team can't do anything. They dropping balls. His quarterback's getting sacked. Offensive line is playing patty cake. It's not going according to plan, which we see it all the time, guys, where you may have played decent in the first game, but on the replay, all of a sudden, nothing goes in your favor. So C-Rob, I'm going to start with you. Why would it be so important that we could restart a game at the exact moment we know, the exact same score, same timeouts, everything that's going on, the injuries would still be the same? Why is that so important to the CFM community?
Man, that would cause so much less frustration in these games. I wouldn't be calling my boy Tone the replay king, because that joker can sit up there and come back with a second game plan better than anybody. We still have to put ours in there, the plug puller, because like it's okay that we put that eat button, get it right back where we were. Don't worry about it. Plug puller, not want to hear that shit. Just being able to restart the game back where it is being. I'm in other leagues with jokers. It's like, let's get it back to where we was. Run the clock to the third quarter. Give you 20, I get 7. I'm like, man, kill that. Either run it back or you got to win. So just being able to restart back where the game ended, it'll cut out a lot of controversy. Hell, we still have some other users in there in the league that quit over a game, disconnected and everything. So I mean, yeah, it'll be real big. It'll make the league flow a lot better, and people won't feel like they're cheated and slighted because of a disconnect. So yeah, that's super.
All right, King Flair, speak on it. I know you've had some throughout the years that we've been playing CFM together, where you're playing well, all of a sudden the game disconnects, and you got to replay the whole game, and it doesn't go right for you. But if we could have just restarted, or even now you've invested 40 minutes of your time, and now you got to reinvest another 40 minutes, but you got things to do. So maybe now that game becomes a sim game, or it becomes a force win for your opponent. Why would that be so important for commissioners to have that ability to just restart right where we left off and finish the game where the disconnect happened?
Well, I've been on both sides of the table. I will tell you this: when I was a pretty great player in this league, that was an issue that used to be crazy, because if I'm up 24-6 or whatever like that, and it disconnected in the second quarter, we have to restart the game. And now, like, my game plan for that person, which I've been planning to play, I now alter it because now they're expecting it. You know what I mean? They're looking for that. And yeah, it's one thing to have your game plan and you got to adjust, but there's another thing where it's like, oh, this dude never covers the flats. And he never covers the flats. And you murdered him all for 2 quarters in the flats. Now he's playing the flats, and that's not your game plan to play for the next, whatever. But what I will say, again, like, to be consistent with what I've been saying the whole time, is this. When it comes to Madden, and make it easy for EA, we already have this feature. If you play the computer, and because I watch my son do it now, because my son has become a big Madden for these last month or two. Well, if he has to cut the game off or whatever, when it comes back on, it starts back. It offers him to replay the game where he left it. So all it has to do is be transferred over to the CFM. I don't even think it's a thing that the commissioner needs to control. It's just if they both quit, it'll be like continue game. And you continue game right there where you were.
Okay, Taz, I know you're close with the commissioners in this league. Y'all been rocking for a long time together. How important are these commissioners talking about this would be a great feature to add to fully be in charge of your league, where you could stop maybe all of the nonsense that we see with disconnects, and you could actually just restart a game? How are commissions talking about how important that would be to them?
It would be a huge feature. It cuts down on a headache. But King Flair already said it. I mean, the technology is there. When you play the computer, if you decide, oh man, you know what, I'm going to go grab something to eat, and you quit, well, when you log back on, it's right there. It says, do you want to continue at that point? So, I mean, it's not even anything, like Flair said, it's not even anything the commissioners really need to have control of. It should just be automatic, where if there's some type of disconnect, we get the little message now, your opponent is having connection issues. It flashes up right before, you get a disconnect now. So, I mean, if that comes up, maybe it should be something that says, okay, there was a disconnect. Do you want to save, from this point and try to continue? That would be huge. Just think how much smoother everything would go. Yeah. And then it's like C-Rob, you said it too. You said the word momentum. If you're playing that first game and you came in prepared and you just jump out on your opponent, you have that momentum, and then all of a sudden you get that disconnect. Well, now it threw you out of your game. You have to reset your mind, like, man, we got to do this again. And that gives your opponent that opportunity. It was like, man, he was whooping my butt. Let me change this up. And so, again, and it's so hard to get that momentum back it rarely ever happens in the replay.
Yeah.
So you just screw it.
Can I say something about that? Another major thing about that is you might be playing against somebody like I put it like this. Like say I'm playing against Kiddie Pool, and I knock out his quarterback. Like he's a top-rated quarterback. Now I've knocked out his quarterback, and say his other quarterback was already injured. So now he has to use his punter to play. But guess what? When we reset, all that goes back to the beginning. Like you lose players or gain players that wasn't even in there. And I think that's very important when you're playing CFM.
Yeah.
If you hurt a running back or receiver for the game or for a long time, shoot, that could be week 17 and you're going into the playoffs, and that could be a major difference. You lost the wide receiver for the rest of the year, or you lost somebody else. So I think that save option, it will be really well, and it will keep intact all the things that have happened. On top of that, the minor thing, because our XP is so weird now, you got to think about the stats. Yeah. Like how much you've done. Like if you had a rookie who went for 200 yards receiving or passing or 3 TDs, and now you start all over and they get hurt the second play of the game, you were like, bro, he fall down. He was about to, like, come on. So, those are things that all matters.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna let C-Rob jump back in here because he kind of mentioned it a little bit. So let's go to the dark side of CFM, and he talked about that plug puller that maybe is getting his teeth kicked in. All of a sudden, he want to disconnect the game because he knows the rules of the league means we got to replay. Now, I'm not saying guys do that, but we all know we got those kind of players in CFM leagues where maybe you're getting bashed in, and if I just go ahead and make this game disconnect, I got to replay, I got a better shot at it. Is this something that would kind of eliminate that type of user completely from your league?
Most definitely. And I honestly want to say, man, in the Dynasty CFM, we seem to have a great collection of guys that we don't have any suspected plug pullers right now. I believe we got rid of that one. So I'm in leagues grimy as hell, where dudes is literally like pulling the plug, and was like, damn, I was getting my head beat in. I was like, you gonna admit that shit in the chat? Like,
yeah,
you beat in, so you pull the plug. So definitely, man, it would eliminate the sore loser, keep from switching momentum and getting players back that weren't in and being able to save stats. So, man, plug pullers beware. Our number one priority is to sit up there and get the recent.
and guys, these 5 things are all things that I think are maybe not be simple, but are things that can legitimately be put into the next Madden. We talked about they already have the technology for some of these things we've seen. We've seen them in other Maddens. They've just gotten kind of pushed off the plate to make room for a different feature. But that's one thing I want all 3 of you guys to be able to speak on a little bit. Do you think sometimes that maybe as a CFM community, maybe we're not being listened to completely when we start talking about some things that we want added to the game, to where now maybe because we are in the age of social media so big, it's so easy to put your opinions out there, to where we did go out and talk to some leagues, and these are the 5 things that maybe EA really does need to listen to some of the things. Maybe not pick all 5. It would be great, Taz, if we looked up at Madden 19 and we went down the list and said, hey, EA put our top 5 things in the game. How great is that? But is it something that we really need to be pressing to say maybe 2 of the 5 or 3 of the 5 we'd love to see in Madden 19?
Definitely. It'd be great. And sometimes I think us in the gaming community too tend to forget that some of the decisions for what goes into the game those decisions are made above the developer's head. You go on Twitter and you follow the guys, Clint and Rex and, John.
Yeah.
They get bashed by some guys on Twitter. And, if those dudes would just stop trolling and think about it, like, those decisions are made by dudes in suits. They put the storyline mode into this year's game, which it turned out to be pretty cool, but
Yeah.
the replay value for me just isn't there. I went through the whole mode once, and I'm like, okay, it wasn't that bad. That was pretty cool, but I haven't done it again since. But,
Right.
I think it would be real nice to definitely see some of these things brought back in, because they were in past editions. But, just brought back in and really see some quality changes to CFM in Madden 19.
All right, Taz brought up a good point, and I was going to let all of y'all speak on that, but I'm going to actually take a huge left turn here because Taz brought up some of the developers and Twitter and some of the things they get. Big shout out to Clint and to John and to Rex. The one thing I got to say about those guys, they got thick skin, especially on Twitter, because they do get a lot of heat from just guys that don't even play Madden like we do here in the Dynasty.
Right.
Where I kind of think, and I put some things on Twitter to respond to those guys. Like, people are asking for things that are just ridiculous things to ask for in Madden. My thing is, until every time you drop back with your quarterback, it's going to be a completed pass 100% of the time, and you make every tackle the first time, and no receiver drops a ball, and no linebacker drops the interception, some guys aren't just going to be happy. They're going to blame somebody if it's just not perfect. So I know one of the things I asked the developers to do is that every time my quarterback threw the ball, like lightning would come out of his arm, or like it would thunder every time we caught a pass or something, just something stupid. But King Flair, I want to go to you on this because I know you want to be tight with EA and the developers, and you're big into that underground community kind of thing. But is some of the things that happen on Twitter and in social media where guys are just bashing developers left and right, is that hurting our CFM community when we see that?
Yes. Yes and no. It's like it's the evil that brings out the good and vice versa, the good that brings out the evil or whatever. Because what ends up happening is that I think it has to be a distinction, kind of like what Taz said, is that this still is a business, this still is a company, this still is something that is traded upon and money is made off of. So, you don't want a developer. I mean, maybe somebody with developer heads wants to be able to pick up a game that he can just pick up and play, and it's telling him press Y, press X, press R, and it works for him because that makes it easy to sell and it makes the replay value easy. But the issue I think it is that they just have to, if we have the CMF feature, that we just do a separate or maybe assign developers just for CFM, like exclusively, like they don't touch anything else in Madden, just the CFM part. I'm not talking about like they do for everybody else and that, just that, and then they make.
Oh, we lost King Flair. I'm sure he's making a great point. But C-Rob, I'm going to go to you. Do we need to see more unity in the CFM community, and not even just, okay, but Flair, you're back. Go ahead and finish that point you was talking about.
Yeah, sorry, interruption, but whereas one of those situations where it's just the CFM, it's just and they're just focused on that. So a lot of these things that we have, like they have for MUT, like, okay, you got that. And that's fine. We understand that pays the bills and makes a lot more money. But the consistency that's been bread and butter, the foundation, is the CFM. So if you have the CFM people, you have a different director or upgrade somebody to the title, and that's all they're focusing on, well, it would be great because then some of these things won't even be discussed. Because I want it to be able to be where, if my son picks up the game in my CFM mode, then he's like, I don't know what this is. I can't play this. You know what I mean? Not unless he's a CFM player. And then I want to be the same way. Where he's like, yeah, I just played the game. And I'm like, what is it? I can't play this game. Like, I can't play it on your mode. Like, truly specifying and being specific with the modes and what they truly offer and feature, I think will be a great aspect to add.
And so, C-Rob, you're going to get a question off of what something King Flair just said. He talked about MUT is the money maker for EA and Madden, but he talked about the foundation, and you can't build that money making house that you own without that foundation of CFM. Because listen, I never played MUT, but I played CFM, and when MUT came out, the only reason they got my MUT money was because I'm a CFM guy. And how many guys we got in the CFM community that don't buy the game because of MUT, but they play MUT because they own the game because they're a CFM gamer, and I got to make sure I'm ready to get in my league. Are they kind of pushing CFM community to the back burner when really it's those guys that are pioneers with them in Madden that made Madden what it is today because we had such a strong CFM community?
I think that they have been pushing CFM to the back burner only because they make money off of the MUT. People actually use actual money to get their teams right in some shape or form. And being that CFM is I mean, it is what it is. We don't put money into it. I mean, it's only your time and your effort in what you're doing. But when we play CFM, so of course they're going to get the moneymaker is always going to get the better upgrades, the more attention. And so, I mean, there's no. I'd hate that if they brought any type of factor in there that where we in CFM start having to pay monetary funds to get our team better or to get the CFM better as a whole. I don't want them to get to that point, and so that for us to be able to get the extra attention and our wish list for our mode of play. So, I mean, definitely we're on the back burner, and hopefully we can get a little more attention towards what we want to see in the game.
And there's one thing I do want to bring up. We do have guys in our corner at EA for CFM. I see guys like Rex, like Clint, like John. You can tell they want to make this game the best that it can be. At no point does a guy sit back in his job and say, you know what, I'm just going to put out whatever I put out, and I'm going to take all this heat I get on Twitter and all that, and it's okay because I'm still getting paid. Listen, Clint, I see Clint on Twitter, I see Rex. They want to make a great game, and they want to make all modes happy, but you got to cut somewhere if you're going to add long shot. If you're going to add long shot, something's got to get cut. You're going to have to cut something down in the game. And so I just think that's where in the CFM community we want to see maybe something else get cut to help us in the CFM community so we can feel like we're just as big as the MUT guys. Let's have a where we can take our CFM squad and play against each other. Let's have a championship where we're on the NFL Network with different CFMs. You know, let's get Pootie T and get his CFM league versus, you know, Dion from the Dynasty, and those guys are on the NFL Network battling out. I would watch that. There's a lot of CFM guys that would tune into that. That would be big business. But I'm just a CFM guy, so I'm gonna ride with this group to the end. But those are the top 5 issues that were voted on. They shrunk the list down. I don't even remember how many were on the list to start with. But it was over 15 that people submitted things that they wanted to see in the next Madden. We cut it down to those 5. I hope as you're listening to this, you understand that we are passionate about our CFM community, not just the Dynasty. You know, we want to see every CFM community get those added features, those bonus things, because it makes everybody better. Yeah, does it help the Dynasty out? Absolutely. And I got 31 brothers in the Dynasty that I want to see get the best gaming experience. I certainly hope I beat all 31 of them every single time I get a chance. But it's just things we want to see in Madden 19. So I want to go around the room and just thank everybody individually. I'll start with Taz, man. I appreciate you jumping on. Always great to hear your insight. You've been in the CFM community now for 36 years since Madden started. So we appreciate
Madden,
you jumping.
the first one, yeah.
That's right, on PC. Taz was on PC. You know, he had those old Kansas City Cowboys as the first CFM league. But Taz, man, I appreciate you jumping on. Give us your insight here on the grind.
No doubt.
C-Rob, another great guy in the Dynasty, doing some big things. Got a big game this week. We won't talk about it. No added pressure on them Panthers. big game this week to try and make the playoffs. But C-Rob, appreciate you jumping on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, it's the homie King Flair. Man, always a great time when him and I get to do a show together. Appreciate you taking time away from the family on a Saturday, jumping on, give us your insight, man.
Yeah, my Mavericks lost, man. Y'all gotta pay for this.
shout out to our Mavs. They took a tough L versus the Lakers today, but it's all right. We'll bounce back. Hopefully we tank it and get us a great draft pick. Get us another Dennis Smith. But
yeah,
one more shout out we got to give out, and it's to the guy that's always behind the scenes for us. It's the commissioner of the Dynasty. It's Nasty New. We know him as Dion, but just appreciate all the work that guy does. So if you're watching this video, we just ask that you subscribe to the channel. You hit the like button, add a comment. Maybe there's something else you want to see in the next Madden that you didn't hear on this show. Maybe your idea didn't get voted on. Drop it in the comment section. We'll try and get those answered. We'll try and maybe do another show like this, another poll. But, man, we appreciate y'all tuning in. It's the DML Network. Go ahead, Flair.
Hold on, EA, man. If y'all see this, John, Rex, all this, we'll love to have you on the show. And you can
yes,
some of this stuff. And God bless the Dynasty and nobody else. I'm just kidding, but we really do go hard here. So yeah, if we can get some of you developers on just to explain, or maybe sometimes ignorance is bliss, and we don't understand how certain things can work or how certain things can help us. So again, thank you for giving us this platform in this game that we have. Turn it back over to my brother Expert.
No doubt, yeah. Developers, reach out to us at the Dynasty CFM on Twitter. You can hit us up directly. I'm at DML_Texans. We would love to see you on the show. Doesn't have to be on video. We can just do a phone interview. Anything where you guys can come on. I know y'all do a lot of stuff for the community, so we appreciate that. But definitely reach out to us. Again, we appreciate everybody tuning in to the show. This has been an episode of The Grind. It's on the DML Network. I'm your boy Expert, and we out.
Thank you for tuning into the DML Network. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below.